What's up everyone, Colt Capperrune here. Thank you for stopping by for another video. This is the Sigma a6400 with a Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens. This is the new iPhone 11 Pro Max. Now back in the day when I first bought this Sony camera, it was the cheapest, most affordable thing that very obviously beat the quality of my iPhone 10 at the time. And if I'm gonna spend money on a camera, it should really beat the quality of my iPhone, right? So now this iPhone 11 Pro is out, and there's a lot of people that have widely regarded it as the first cell phone to actually be able to get kind of pro-level footage from. And even the director of John Wick filmed a commercial with kids having a snowball fight with this cell phone, and it looked amazing. So after posting the first photo on Instagram taken with this cell phone, I asked you guys if you wanted to see a video comparing it to my normal camera, because a lot of you ask what camera I'm using and what system I'm using. And what you probably don't realize is exactly how much cell phone footage has always been spliced in my videos. I'm always got my cell phone on me, and I don't always have this camera on me. And so there's a lot of footage that you guys have seen on the channel that comes from my cell phone, and I can certainly go ahead and say that the camera on this iPhone 11 Pro Max is fantastic for a cell phone. But the real question I want to answer today is, do you need a real camera to create high quality content? Do you need a real camera to be able to create a successful YouTube channel or get followers on Instagram or TikTok, if that's your thing? So we're gonna compare footage between these two cameras, and we're gonna see exactly where the pros and cons are with each of them. So my iPhone 10, I was down in the garage, and I did one of those, like, I slipped and dropped it, and in my attempt to catch it, I actually like slapped it into the ground and just shattered the whole thing. So that's really what prompted the move to the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And I am kind of always like, I need the latest and greatest iPhone. Oh my God, there's a new one out. So the first thing I did as soon as I got this new iPhone 11 Pro is get a new case for it. Now I remember seeing that PolarPro actually makes a phone case for this, and not just a phone case, it's kind of a whole little filmmaking system. This is not a sponsored video, I just think this is really cool, and so I bought it with my own money. So the case is very cool, and I like it a lot. I really like how well it protects the cameras. That's awesome. Here's the cool thing. You get this little handle. Open this, and you clip it right on your phone. You have a handle on your phone, making it so much more steady like a real camera. And I think that this is really cool. I'm truly shocked at how good this feels in my hand when I'm holding it. It's absolutely fantastic. And this handle adjusts into a whole bunch of different spots, so you can put it right in the middle there. And it's got 1/4-20 threads in both sides of it. So you can take like your Joby GorillaPod or whatever and just screw it right on. There we go, and now you've got yourself a legit little vlogging rig, and that's very cool. It's also cool because this gives you the ability for, you know, tripods and all the flaws that filming everything with your cell phone comes with. This case solves it, and so, not sponsored, love this case. I've grown to really love it. I'll put links in the description down below so that way you guys can pick this case up if you like. But in addition to this case, it also comes with an ND filter. And so you get to these little slots right here on the case and the little tabs on this ND filter, and you get to just kind of snap this thing on there, and then you have an ND filter on your cell phone. I can't recommend this case and this system enough. Now before we get looking at some test footage between these two, I want you to know that I'm running this Sony camera in full auto. It's in full auto everything, and I've done this on purpose so that way it's the most fair fight between this camera and this cell phone. Certainly it's capable of even better results if you run it in full manual and you kind of know what you're doing. So I record everything at 24 frames per second, and that's very common. Most filmmakers across the board use 24 frames per second. And this is one of the first cell phones in which the native camera app has 24 frames per second built in. which is awesome because it makes it so much easier to splice footage back and forth between this cell phone and this camera. Now, one of the first downsides that I noticed though is that you can only use 24 frames per second in 4K, and it will only do 30 frames per second up to 120 frames per second in 1080. So if you want 24 frames per second, you have to run 4K. The other thing that I want to say real quick before we get to test footage is that the stabilization in these cell phones is absolutely staggering. It's fantastic. And this camera doesn't have any stabilization in it whatsoever. Not in the lens, not in the body, not digitally. And so as we get into more B-roll-y kind of stuff or vloggy hand-holding kind of stuff, I'm actually gonna put this camera on a gimbal because it's really difficult to see how, the difference in quality of footage between something that's real shaky and something that's stable as a rock. But no, if you're concerned about stabilization, the iPhone 11 Pro and really any cell phone at this point is gonna stomp all over this camera. So one of the things that I've noticed that the iPhone actually just completely falls apart in is this. It's kind of odd lighting situations. Now, you can watch, and I'm gonna walk real slowly over here. My face stays properly exposed, properly in focus, and generally, aside from the ugliness of it, and generally looks pretty good. Even as I walk up to this very bright window here, right? Still looks pretty good. And we can pan and kind of get even darker with that in the background. Looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna face the window head on. I mean, that still is okay. It's a little blown out, but it's okay. Now this right here, I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the iPhone. This right here is where the iPhone completely falls apart. All right, here we go. Okay, same test. Here we are sitting at the start. Now, one of the main disadvantages that this iPhone has, or that any iPhone has, is that this back camera is the one that you want to use. If you want the highest quality, the selfie cameras are much, much lower quality, so you always have to use the back camera, which means there's no screen with which to see yourself. I don't actually know what I'm filming right now. So anyway, walking up to this window, this right here is where the iPhone really starts to fall apart compared to the camera. Walking up to a bright window with something dark in the background, the overall picture being oddly lit, this is the biggest problem with the iPhone right here. All right, we're gonna do this same walk one more time. Now we're on the ultra-wide lens, which is one of the very coolest things about this cell phone. The ultra-wide lens is awesome. Unfortunately, it doesn't do as well in subpar light conditions, but we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Let's walk this same path, and you can see how the auto of this camera kind of keeps up as we go from in front of an actual legit film light into some dark area, and then into some not so wonderfully lit window light. Now again, this is where I genuinely think that the iPhone kind of falls apart. I mean, this is the spot where like it just doesn't do nearly as good. Okay, so here we go. We're at this beautiful park here in Nashville, and we're just gonna see the differences in this footage. Now again, it's incredibly difficult because I can't see at all what I'm filming on the iPhone. I have no idea. Here's what we got going on. How does this look? Do you prefer one or the other? Do they both look good? One of the issues in filming with a big camera, just like this, is I showed up here at the park and it took all of 30 seconds for a ranger to come up to me and ask me what I was doing, and if I had a permit, if I was doing any commercial work, and of course I'm not, and we had a lovely conversation. And he ended up, letting me shoot. But that's one of the issues with shooting with a big camera is, it causes a lot of attention, as opposed to if I was out here with my cell phone, nobody would have paid any attention. No one would have looked at me twice. Here is one of the biggest differences between a cell phone and a real camera. Right now, everything is in focus all the way behind me. But if we throw an ND filter on this camera right here, and you can see what a massive, massive difference it makes. Now you've got a shallow depth of field. The background is very shallow, and it just overall looks way more professional as opposed to this iPhone, which everything's in focus. Now, I'm sure the footage looks just fine on this iPhone, but it's just not the same thing. Now, one of the things that I think a lot of people misunderstand is that you need this real camera with this shallow depth of field and everything looks awesome in order to get traction, in order to get followers, in order to get likes on social media. And I disagree with that. I think this is absolutely more than good enough to get followers, to get traction, anything you want. Because at the end of the day, content is king. The information that you're giving people is the important thing. The entertainment value that you're giving people is the important thing. Now, certainly this ultra wide lens is very, very cool. And you can get a super wide lens for your camera. You can get all sorts of different focal lengths for your camera, but built right into the iPhone. I mean, this is pretty neat. The other thing that I want to make sure that I touch on is battery life. I've already changed a battery, ran a battery completely out and changed it in this camera. The iPhone hasn't even hit 80% yet. Also, this iPhone weighs so much less, so much less than the actual camera, especially with this gimbal on. So stabilization, battery life, convenience, being inconspicuous, the iPhone wins in a lot of these categories. In terms of straight image quality, I think the a6400 wins hands down. I absolutely think it looks better, and I absolutely think it looks better in a much wider variety of situations. If you're mainly concerned about just image quality, you're not gonna be able to beat a real camera. In terms of price, these are almost the same price. I mean, you have to have a phone anyway. Everyone's gonna have a phone anyway, but this iPhone 11 Pro Max I think is about $1,200. And this camera with this lens is about $1,200. And so minus the gimbal, you're talking exactly the same amount of money, so that might play into your decision as well. Something else to consider is raw photos. You know, if you're taking photos and you're as concerned about this being a photo camera as you are it being a video camera, being able to take raw photos, it gives you a massive advantage. Oh, bells are going off. That's pretty neat. Being able to take raw photos gives you a massive advantage in terms of your photo quality and being able to recover highlights and lowlights. And so while the camera on the iPhone is absolutely amazing, it is absolutely going to be outperformed by most any camera that can shoot raw. Then of course there's the flexibility of real cameras in terms of being able to change the lenses, shoot different profiles, log profiles, having independent control over all the parameters. So it wouldn't be the first time that I said this. If you're looking to start a channel or start building followers on Instagram or whatever your thing is, and you have a cell phone, consider upgrading to the iPhone 11 Pro, because it is more than certainly good enough to get traction and to get followers and to create high quality content, which is really what this video is about. Do you need a camera? And at the end of the day, I don't believe that you need one. You may prefer one, but it's almost becoming a creative choice, and that's really cool. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I really hope that this helped you figure out what decision to make and how to create better content. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and hit the bell notification next to the subscribe tab, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.